All right, let's
Look, I want to be blue, green. Look, I got light. Look, that'll freak you out.
welcome y'all. I'm Mark. That's
I'm
Jeffrey,
Jeff.
and that's Jeff. And this is Let's Talk Music. I'll kill the music here. That's
We've
our
got an
that's our
intro now, which
we
is
have an intro. I have
we're
to
high
learn
tech, dude.
I have to learn how to fade it in and out.
Yeah,
just
that's the
like
next
our
assignment.
just like our
Like
our
this.
camera our camera fades.
Welcome.
How's everything? You good?
I'm good, man. How you doing?
I'm doing well, man.
Yeah,
You know,
getting through the Monday that it is
the
of it
Monday,
all.
the mundane Monday of it's all rainy and
Mhm.
cold and shit.
It's
Everybody's been
Lord.
looking forward to it to kind of getting warm, you know?
Yeah, it will be nice. That's for sure.
Yeah. All right. Well, I guess we're going to dive right into this topic.
Mm-hmm.
And this topic is skill versus soul, or soul versus skill, whichever way you want to look at it. Kind of just a conversation between what I was asking listeners, like what grabs them. What's it for you, Jeff?
I get it's always going to be soul. And I think that's the thing that people really hits people the most, like um at least long term it's got to be soul just because like we've all heard those players who are like amazing players and you're just like wow and you're like you can't believe what you're seeing but then after about like 30 minutes of it you're like okay I get it, you know what I mean
Absolutely.
not that that's not that there's not something to be said for skill obviously like the more skilled you are and if you have both that's ideal obviously but I mean there's guys who can't really play. I mean that doesn't matter, that like the soul of it where it hits you. That's what your heart recognizes. I think that's what people's. Um,
Yeah, I think what made me go to that question was just because of what you see online as far as like the
yeah,
millions of views, and it's like guys that are just playing. I didn't, I think one time you sent me a video a long time ago. You're like, they're not even playing guitar anymore. Like I don't even
right,
know what the hell that is,
right.
and but that kind of gets the clicks, and I guess that's the cheap click or the the quick thrill type of a video. But it was also kind of a quick a trick question because I was asking, can you like acquire soul from practice? Like, is
Ooh,
soul an acquired thing, or is it just life kicking you in the ass? And
I
and
don't
then and
know.
yeah. And I was
I don't
saying,
know.
does it mimic like you can mimic a blues player or a bluesy soulful player, but you're mimicking his emotion that he gleaned from
Yeah,
the universe through heartache, you know?
yeah. I think like I don't know, and I'm not claiming to have any of this. I don't. My default is more towards a skilled, you know, a playing style, and I try to have as much soul, and I try to do, what I believe in. But I think that comes from like a level of like there's like a self-discovery that has to happen somewhere within you to be able to get to that point where what you're doing is soulful but soulfully unique to yourself, you know what I mean? like
Absolutely. Yeah.
like like it's hard nowadays too because I mean like you were talking about lyrics or like things like that can
Yeah.
move people and stuff and like I think it's just there's like a certain honesty you have to have within yourself and an unapologetic sort of like
Well, it's got to be very
willingness to
it's like vulnerable, It's
a
yeah.
vulnerability that you have to be willing to put out there to let yourself be you know
Touched in a
touched. Yeah,
very intimate way. Like it's like this is my no-no square. You know what I mean? As a
right.
child, you're told, you can't physically touch these things, but as a musician, you're constantly trying to give your spin on whatever the
Right.
universe or your spin on,
I think
I
that's one kind of soul, you know what I mean? there's that
absolutely,
there's
there's so many in that sense,
yeah, there's
you
like
know.
that singer songwriter sort of style or that old blues guitar player sort of just sort of thing where it's just like this sort of like soulful sort of like willingness to just be authentic, and then there's like another type that's just kind of like where you feel like the person who's playing or singing or whatever is so connected to the other world or whatever that it's like they themselves are sort of a spiritual being in some way. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
Because there's guys like there's people like that a lot. Like I mean, like even like Jerry. I mean, he had both obviously, but like or like Trey or like some of these guitar players we always talk about. Like Trey's a very technical player, or at least was,
Hmm.
at some point, and like but he also had that the whole band has the ridiculous ability to tap into like what's happening, and there's like an acute awareness in every player to where they're tapping into whatever's being fed to them, and like that connection to that feed is soulful. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you have to have a certain wisdom to be able to get that. You know what I mean? Like
Well,
um
it's probably, I mean, it would be, in my opinion, the idea of being the vessel as opposed to just being the mechanics of it. So, like, if you're
yeah,
just shredding, and I'm not taking away from shredders.
right.
That shit takes years and years and
No, I
years,
can't do it.
like
Yeah.
I can't do it. So I'm not
I'd
taking away
kill to
from
be
that.
able to shred like a Steve Vai or something. I'd
Holy
give my
moly.
left nut to do that,
But just even have the freedom to make that run. Do you know what I mean?
Right,
Like I don't have to do it all the time, but just to be able to like backdoor you with that shit and you be like,
right.
what the
It's
fuck
just out
was
of nowhere,
that?
you're like, and you're like,
And,
what? You know,
yeah, you're like, yeah. And
that would
I
be
guess
cool.
on that point as well, like when people hear Stevie Ray Vai or Stevie Ray Vaughan, Stevie Ray, look at me.
If you're
Anyway,
right,
yeah, this is my fucking dad, children.
that's
Anyway,
a new cover
yeah,
band that's coming out there.
that's
Stevie Ray Vaughan, but they're shredding.
they're like Daft Punk, you know what I mean? It's like this doesn't fit.
Yeah,
But like when people listen to his playing, I don't think, and it's kind of, I guess it would be Jimmy. I guess it would be almost every like. Let me make my point before I start fucking going off. Just like it's almost like that single bend that
right.
grabs you by your boo boo. Like he's flying through it, he's getting you, he's scuttlebutting you, and he's doing all that shit. But when he starts to really start to kind of cry through that
Hmm.
guitar, you're like, motherfucker,
Yeah,
like BB King. I mean, he
yeah,
never played anything fast. He played everything with just like a lamenting, you know.
yeah. It was like he only played what he could play.
Yeah, he wasn't
That's the
trying
thing.
to.
That's what I mean. There comes like a certain there's like a certain wisdom that you have to be able to like master to be able to be a soulful player because like you don't play beyond yourself. You're not playing below yourself. You're just doing what is you and that
Yeah.
and it's authentic and then it's easy to connect with, I guess. I don't know. Does that make sense? Is that what I'm really trying to say? I don't know. Like that makes, I mean you have to
Yeah.
have some type of like real understanding of who you are as a person to be like super soulful. I mean, who's like the most soulful? Who's the soulful people we're talking about? Like, I mean, people talk about Miles Davis like that. It was just he wasn't the guy who was going to play bebop scales and freak
Yeah.
out and everything. I mean, he could do some of that stuff, but like he would just play one note and it would just people would just go, "What?" Like
He was like the king of the fucking half step. It's like,
right,
what? And just hold it, and you're just like, oh
right,
my god, like you're
yeah.
the, it's
Yeah,
like,
like Kind of Blue is like one
yeah,
of my favorite albums of all time. You know what I mean? And there's not
absolutely.
a lot of flash on that album, if
No,
any. You know what I
no,
mean? But like it's extremely soulful.
yeah,
Um, and then there's singers. I think it's easier to find in singers and it's easier to identify because it comes with the articulation of the human voice,
yeah,
which is definitely I think the most soulful instrument there is. You know what I mean?
absolutely. I think guitar, saxes, everything is trying to mimic
Right.
that cry or that
Yeah.
whatever the fuck that is.
Yeah. I mean, John Mayer was talking about that. Again, he's always talking about something.
He's
But
always got some shit
he's
to
got
say.
something to say about something. But he talked about like he was kind of shitting on guitar players a little bit, like, but he was talking about like I just don't understand some of these bends these guitar players do, and like this one, I try to do everything that I play. It sounds like it should be coming out of someone's voice, and that's where I'm trying to be. And I'm like,
Okay,
well, it's good advice and it makes sense,
yeah.
you know. And he starts giving examples of things. He's like that one. He's like, I don't get that one, and it's like one that Trey does like all the time. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah. Well, I think the
And
almonds do that too, though, with the
yeah,
double. It's like that, just that double bend to the note.
it's like a half step bend up to like I don't know.
Yeah.
It's it's like this one he's talking about. It's like if you're an A, I don't know if you can even hear
Yeah.
it.
Nope.
Like
It mutes you out. It mutes out your
you
music.
can't hear it.
So,
All right. Copyright
Yeah.
infringement.
No, it's like they just don't want, don't be showing off on here.
I know, right?
This is a Zoom.
But it's this specific Ben that he talks about. He just doesn't like it, you know. Um,
Because what? Because that wouldn't
because
happen
it
naturally
wouldn't
in
it
the
wouldn't
voice.
yeah, he doesn't hear that coming out of like a soul singer's voice or whatever.
Yeah.
Which is good advice. I mean, it's interesting. But again, when you do that, you're limiting these notes that we as guitar players who have learned all this stuff over the years, we go, well, there's all these notes I can hit. And
Yeah.
it's like, you don't need any of that stuff.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's the wisdom that it takes. Me and you talk about this all the time. We always talk about like when we go up to play, you go out to a gig and you want to play, and it's like you're real excited because you've been practicing all week and you've been working on this one song, and you know that you got that solo coming up, and you're like, oh, I got this new idea for this thing,
Yeah.
and then it comes, and then you're like really trying to get everything in there, and you just overplay because you want to dump as much out as possible
Yeah. Yeah. Like I've been holding this.
because you're like, let me show you, let me show you, let me
Yeah.
show you. And it's like the reality is that the power is in the reserve to not do what you
Yeah.
can do, but just do what needs to be done. And it's so hard. It's such a
Oh.
hard thing to do. But I think
Yeah.
those are the most soulful players. Like you said, BB King, like
Yeah.
Stevie Ray Vaughan could shred. I mean,
Yeah.
he
Yeah.
could rip. But again, everything that guy did was basically in a blues scale.
Yeah.
And was in a blues vocabulary. But I mean, and a lot of it's tone too. I mean, we could talk about tone and
That would be like a guitar conversation as opposed
right,
to just like
exactly.
soul and in just in what grabs you in a song.
Yeah,
That's the other thing too. Like I said, a guy hit me up online was like, "So what you're telling me is that without loss and without like life, you can't be soulful." And I was like, "I think you can mimic soulful phrasing." And Jeff was saying the same thing. Matheson, he was saying the same thing. It was like, I think you can definitely learn the how to be soulful
yeah,
by by being able to like copy phrases, but we're copying phrases that people have told us are soulful. Do you get what I'm saying? Like it's not really
yeah.
coming from.
I think people can experience soulful moments because, like, I always to go back to that. Like, it's sometimes you find yourself in that zone and you're experiencing that sort of connection with the divine where you're being overtaken by that thing. And when that happens, the audience feels that. You know what I mean? Um,
I think that's true. I think that's something that can't be manufactured in that sense.
right. So
Because
I think
if it's like the idea of being like, are they a soulful like musician, or are they playing with a soul feel? I guess there's always these like
yeah.
divvies you could do. It's like
Hmm.
he plays soulful phrasing, but it feels manufactured. And then this guy is just playing, three notes, but it seems like it's more like genuine.
Right. I mean, like a guy like Steve Vai, for example. Like he's probably one of the best guitar players in the world. At one time, that guy was. I mean, he's getting
Yeah.
older now too. But like, I mean, at one point, there was nobody who could do what that guy could do, and he can do. He can play a Jimi Hendrix song for you, and you're just like, oh, damn, that is so good. Like what he's doing, but is it
Is
soulful?
it full? Yeah, no, I don't. Yeah.
Like
Yeah. We're
he
gonna
can
have to
do
have
everything that Jimi Hendrix can do. He can impersonate anybody on the planet. He can do gymnastics all over the guitar.
yeah.
He can play notes and just bend, and he does. He's not always super flashy and over the top and everything. He does a
Yeah.
lot of simple things where he plays just simple ballads that have a very melody that goes along with the thing that he's playing. But like, I don't know if he's ever gonna make you cry. You know what I
I don't
mean?
know if
Like,
anyone's ever called him soulful, to be
right.
honest.
He's
Like,
a technician for sure, but he's the best there is as far as technicians. I mean, he used to be. Maybe
yeah.
Instagram kids are better than he is now.
Yeah, well, I
Like
mean,
that guy
there's like
Mateo,
13, yeah.
what's his name?
Manusco or something.
Lanuska or whatever. I mean, is
Yeah.
that guy soulful? I can tell you that when he does
He plays some
runs,
slick licks. Like
when
he
he
plays
plays
some
some stuff, he
yeah.
makes you go ooh, like
Yeah.
you know what I
Oh.
mean. But
Yeah.
like he'll make you grunt like ooh, But like I don't know, is that soul?
Yeah.
Is the ability to move you with like the technical aspect of it because it's so shocking what he's doing. Like you can't even fathom half the stuff that guy's doing. You're like
Yeah,
what?
especially he's playing with his fucking fingers. Like he's picking
Yeah.
like he's not touching a pick. He's going through it pretty nasty.
But is he like, I mean, for example, like Jeff Beck.
Yeah.
soulful for
I would
sure.
say Jeff Beck was like 100% soul. Like
Yeah.
every note he like would manipulate how it rang
Yeah,
out and like I
exactly.
mean
He
it
had
was
so
just
much
like
control over it. One note. He
yeah,
could make it sound 12 different ways
exactly.
within
Yeah,
one.
exactly. He's like bending, he's grabbing it above the nut and behind the
Yeah.
bridge and like, fucking whatever,
Also
whatever.
a technician, though. You know what I mean?
That's technical skill. That's a
Right.
lead. That's giving him the tools, and I think somebody mentioned that too, is like the practice is, and this is kind of what I believe too, is the practice is so that when you are in the moment, you're not fucking trying.
Right.
You're not, you're like, it's like a prize fighter. You know what I mean? You work out, you go to, you do your fucking camp. When it's time to jump in the ring, the fight's already been won or decided. Like whoever put in more work, when you go in there, it's like autopilot, and you just
Yeah.
better be like ready
Well, then
for.
that's the other thing is that can you be soulful without skill? Because
Mm.
realistically, like let's say you're like, if you're talking about guitar players or any like a sax player or a trumpet player or any instrumentalist or a singer,
Yeah,
if you're going through and like you're singing a song, but you're not quite making it to that note, and you're really going for it, but you're sort of you catch your breath and you have to breathe here, and you're not making it through to the phrase, or
yeah,
those distractions take the listener out of that experience, and then they disconnect from what you're trying to put down. Now, they might forgive more of that
yeah.
in the moment, like especially live, you might forgive some of that stuff. But like if you're listening back, if you're listening to like a recorded thing, there's like some stuff can sound like some stuff in soulful playing can sound like out of tune or sound fragile or achy or have emotion to it that's not wrong, but it's part of that emotion. But then there's stuff that is just mistakes, you know what I mean? So
Yeah,
like,
no,
if you're
no.
playing along and you're hitting like wrong notes and stuff and somebody's like, oh, you're taking you that distraction will take people out. You can be playing with as much intention and emotion as you want, but
Yeah, I mean, you and I know well enough, and we play music well long enough to know that you're in a good run, and you fucking step in a puddle, and it's like and you're like, oh my god,
yeah.
it's like stepping on a landmine. It knocks me off because it
Right.
fucks the harmonic idea up,
Hmm.
unless you just really lean into it, and you're like, fuck it, I'm going atonal for eight
Right.
eight bars or whatever. Like,
And that's what people do, They
yeah,
try to do that because you're like, no, I meant to do that.
yeah, yeah. No, that shit is art. Yeah, we call it jazz.
Yeah, that's my European policeman sound.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. You don't
Yeah,
even know what I'm referencing. I'm referencing all kinds of themes over here.
right. Themes. So yeah, but I do think there's got to be a certain level of skill because that's going to be the best thing. If you already have that sort of like um soulful approach to it and you have that just natural, some of that's just innate with people, like you said, like
Yeah,
it's just something about certain people who have that connection. I think there's a certain wisdom. It's like whether they're old souls or whether they're like, it's like that
yeah.
sort of like wisdom to like the way that they play or the way they approach music or the way that they perceive what's happening. You know what I mean? To where they don't,
It's all filters, right? I mean, we're just the filter and giving you our life experience.
right. But you can't get that out if you don't know how to speak the language. You
No,
know,
you're
like
yeah, yeah,
you can't move anybody if you can't. You got to crawl and then you got to walk and then you can run. But like if
yeah,
you start off knowing a certain, having a certain wisdom about like knowing you're not going to fly,
yeah,
you know what I mean? By the time you are running, you're doing things either that are right where they need to be, as opposed to like trying to do too much and being flashy or trying to do too little and being boring. There's like a sweet spot for every individual where it's like you're riding on the thing that is your own melodic idea that's authentic.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. I
and
mean,
there's
you can't.
definitely techniques to playing soulfully in different ways. You can like you can certainly learn like those guys were saying, like you can definitely learn that stuff, like how to pinch a note the right way to create an emotional thing, or how to bend properly so that the thing sings and has a vibrato that's emotes. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Um,
I think a lot of it. I mean, even when you look at the jazz guys, I mean, bending strings is, faux pas. Like you don't fucking bend a string in jazz. Like so they're
yeah, I
getting
guess
that
that's a good
same
point.
that kind of emotional like pull on notes just by maybe the harmonic dissonance, like it's smart in that sense. Like, well, I put this 13 over because it worked with this A, like whatever the fuck they're talking about. But
Yeah. Well, I
they,
mean, like, is like a guy like John McLaughlin soulful? I mean, it depends on your definition of soul.
I
He's
guess,
definitely connected. He's
yeah.
definitely spiritually tapped in. Is that the same
I guess I
soul?
get. So then it does it come down to what is technically. So then it is. It's like, so are we talking about the label of soul music? And so then we
Right.
say that music is soulful because it sounds like Motown from the 60s,
Or
or
it's or is Bob Marley soulful because he's singing it in a religious context and he's
yeah.
definitely connected to the music spiritually and that
Yeah,
band has
I would say
vibe.
I mean he can knock you on your knees with his vocals.
Yeah. I mean, like, so I mean it's just a matter of what you're defining. But if we're talking about which is the necessary ingredient for good music, I would say soul first
Yeah.
and then technique. But that would be ideal. But like again, you just can't really
Well,
choose.
if
You
we
know, you
had
gotta
if we
go with
had
what
the
you got
if we had
and
the
hope for the
ability to
best.
choose that, we would have been like, I'm the soulful band. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
I picked up
yeah,
the guitar at 16 and I've just been fucking shitting soul ever
yeah.
since.
Every soul, every note
Just
I
every
play,
note I've
manna
played,
from God.
it's like 1,000 babies crying. You
Yeah,
know?
I mean, it's I don't know. It's
I,
hard
I
to
it is
say.
it's almost like kung fu, and I guess the way that when I was reading it online and like the comments and everything, it was like a skill, like kung fu's technical like meaning is a skill acquired through hard work. So
Hmm.
it's like you have to put in the hours to be able to make those like connections either synaptically or universally to where you felt how this makes you feel, and you're like, all right, well, that's just another flavor of like my life, and I
But
can
at the
give
same
that.
time, like Kung Fu is also a meditation and being able to like balance that power and grace at the same time and be
Absolutely,
able to
fuck
like
yeah.
be so aware of what's happening that you can react in that moment
Yep.
using the skills that you've worked on in regimen.
And repetition
But
and
now you
just
put it into meditative practice. It's the same thing with music. And that's
yeah,
exactly what you want.
absolutely, fuck
But
yeah.
how do you have to learn? I guess you can learn both then.
Yeah,
If you're comparing it to something like Kung Fu, because then they teach them meditation and they teach them
it's
focus
part of the
and
art. Yeah,
right,
it's not, you don't get the martial without the spiritual. You know what I
right.
mean? Like it has to be, one doesn't work without the other. Without, martial without a spiritual is just, a bully.
Well, and
Like,
that's kind of like the reality with music. That's what separates good musicians from bad musicians, is that there's got to be some level of spiritual connection to what you're doing for it to have effect on people. And that's what makes people go, oh, I'll listen to this person, or like, why is this guy here? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
there's a difference in that. If you're just, if there's no spiritual connection to what you're doing, or you're not really, um, it's not meditative or like true or real or coming from a certain place that everybody can feel. It's unspoken. You can't put your finger on why that is, but it just is.
It has to be.
That's what separates the really great artists
Yeah.
from the
That's
the
what makes
flock,
people like
from the rest of everybody.
hang pictures on their walls and shit.
Right.
You know what I mean? And sit in their room and listen to their records over and over, because it's like whatever that connection is, whatever you've given them, they're also connecting into.
Yep. Yep. For
Well, I
sure.
think we're gonna probably have to wrap it up here. I had the I had to go with the cheap version of
What's that?
which is like Zoom. I had like the thing where we could do it
Oh,
forever, and I was like, man,
well, that's all right.
yeah.
That's a good one. I think you got to have both. I think we've pretty much solved it, Mark. I think we've
We figured
addressed
it
it. We
out.
put it to rest for everybody out there debating.
Yes, it's fucking.
Got to have both.
You gotta have both.
Yep.
One
But
without the
ultimately,
others is a left.
I think soul will get you further than technique if you're true to yourself and you're creating authentic music and you're not trying to do something beyond yourself.
Yeah, I agree. But if you want to show off all the skill you
Oh
want
yeah,
in the world,
totally.
yeah, you can just
Yeah.
fucking just shred it up, and
Musical
everyone's just like,
masturbation. Yes.
dude, just just feeding the geese.
Yeah.
All right, y'all. Well, I'm Mark,
I'm Jeff.
and that's Talk Music. Later, y'all.